You're very famous now for creating events in the theater, which have now been called immersive theater. And you wouldn't normally think of a Shakespearean play this way, but I know you have. So why don't you tell us what that means to you?
I discovered the ability of creating a world around the play as part of the play, partially because when I first got started in New York, I had this loft where I kind of created a performance culture that was very casual, and a lot of it was about being able to share work, which, as you know, especially for theatre directors, is very difficult. Well, actually, actors too, anybody who works in theatre, because ours is a social medium. And whereas painters could have a studio where they can show works in progress, and athletes have their own place to do their preparation, the track, and dancers have their own way of practicing, getting ready for the day. But what I found in this loft, which we maintained as a bare space, that to invite people to come and see some work in progress, whatever it might have been, barely staged or as a reading or as a communal experience, that the journey into the house was as much a part of the experience as what the event itself was, and that wasn't something that we could change. And so that was really the seed for my thinking in terms of, oh, well, this actually happens every time we go to the theatre. We all have to journey to the theatre, we all have to wait for the show to start, we all have to engage in some form of intermission if the show allows it, and then eventually we have to leave the theatre and rejoin the outside world. And that's really how I started thinking about, oh, I can actually incorporate all of those things as meaningful events in and around the play itself. And I discovered, of course, that in an odd sense, I just found myself returning to things that we've all been doing in the history of all theatre going, in engaging in that style, because the moment I decided, okay, so perhaps before the show is not the time to keep an audience separate to an artist, it suddenly started becoming, oh, groundlings, yes, and there was connection. People did hang out before the show started. And I'm particularly interested in this day and age, in the phenomenon of what an audience is or isn't willing to do to engage deeper in the work at hand. And why I became interested is because I know myself well enough to know that I work harder when my friend is up there on stage, because I have an investment in their success, and I have an investment in my ability to be authentic about celebrating their success. And I typically find it a deeply emotional experience to watch a friend on stage because of all the work they've done, and I might have heard a little bit about their process, and I want them to succeed so much. And so I realize that there is a difference between an impartial audience that watches simply a product that they've paid for and purchased, which creates a culture of basically please me, versus going into something with an intention. And so a lot of my experimentation with this immersive genre is really about stimulating authentic ways in which the performer and the audience can recognize each other's efforts in creating an evening together. Mm-hmm. And that really became sort of the fundamental philosophical route to all of the other tactics I've now developed to try and encourage that connection, because I should say actually that I am one of those people who fears immersive theatre. Like, you couldn't pay me enough money to go to something if somebody told me immersive, because, you know, I might be afraid somebody's going to sit on my lap or embarrass me or pull me up on stage, all the things one just loathes about interactive nonsense that have no relationship with the play experience or the text. You know, in my culture, really, it's about creating an inclusiveness, which is really the way I think about it now. It is about extending an inclusiveness either side of the proscenium arch. We get to determine how far in we want to go, and our artists too get to determine how far they want to go.
That's terrific.
Into our world.